The agenda for the day was to continue surviving in a world I had no business surviving in. I was slowly becoming a rogue nation, complete with science and technology, as well as an unlicensed munitions factory. I was also becoming my own military. If I were in a world where the United Nations didn't succumb to being eaten to death by everybody's dead grandfather, I would have been sophisticated enough to have sanctions and embargoes imposed upon me. My road to success had a few bumps and cracks that had only slightly hindered me. And this wooden bow, it must be said, is actually kind of insane. It's truly exceptional when you consider that it only needs a crafting skill of level 10 and its damage compares to a steel club when you add in the damage of an arrow. I could have had this thing made by day 2 and it would have spared me a great deal of trouble during a time when I was using an exceptionally bad wooden club. But that is in the past, and the past is only there for me to painfully reflect upon it. But now I had a shotgun, and I had a deep desire to show it off to as many zombies as possible. I killed like 50 zombies, and they were immediately replaced. It's time to do it again. The zombies had been instantly replaced again. Even though I was mass producing shotgun shells, the day 14 horde was fast approaching. My shotgun shell budget was still very tight. And little did I know that, in this footage, the vanilla shotguns were bugged, and I gained absolutely zero experience from all that. This is fixed now, but I still wasted all those shotgun shells. Shockingly, it had seemed that my shotgun related actions had attracted the undivided attention of zombies from very far away. I'm not entirely sure if that was coincidence, but it did seem to be a design of the mod where firearms attracted zombies from far distances. And I mean really far distances. I think those zombies came from several blocks away from my home. I consumed and digested several shotgun magazines. Even though I had a double barrel, I still wanted to craft the Model 1887 shotgun. This would be the closest thing I could make to a pump action shotgun. And now it was unlocked. I was just shy on a few shotgun parts, but I was in possession of most everything else except for some steel. My goal was to get this shotgun crafted before being tortured to death on the day 14 horde. This fire station invited me to raid it, and I pulled a very slightly upgraded steel helmet from this locker. The armor of the soldiers makes them impenetrable fortresses. I invested my wealth of stamina into his brain. It's really no wonder why I avoid conflict with feral soldiers. For some strange reason, these fire trucks have had their loot tables modified to give medical adjacent loot. I gave appreciation to my firefighters by killing these squatters. And I was most thankful there were no ferals here, because we're in the forest, and the forest is our friend. There are no ferals here in the forest, except this feral white. The feral white had politely reminded me that I was making great progress in my game, and I should be expecting this game to start really scaling up. The feral white summoned his army of backup dancers. I returned to the primitive age and tickled the zombies with my primitive arrows. I very slightly agitated the feral white with my arrows, making him itchy. He became so itchy, he had to stop, drop, and roll. I begged the feral white to please die. My shotgun challenged his brain to a fight, and the fight was over. And I harvested just enough bones to make a singular bottle of glue. Construction workers are the unsung heroes of society. I constructed a bridge made entirely out of arrows into his head. This lumberjack's face gifted me a single perk point. I became battle-hardened, which removed the penalties to my vitality during combat. These zombies also demanded my attention, and I thanked them for not being feral whites. I was one part closer to my shotgun, but I still needed two more parts, and one of them would come from scrapping my double barrel. The forest biome loot chest contained the sort of loot you would expect from the forest biome. but the fragments were always welcomed. And while on the subject of fragments, this custom made POI was a nuclear power plant that was powered by fragments. It looked absolutely terrifying because custom made POIs are usually stuffed with undesirables. Oh, and guess who's here? It's the same exact feral soldier that chased me away from a previous episode. I know it's him because this library is coincidentally located close to that same area. I transferred almost an entire magazine to his head and it barely did anything. I truly hate feral soldiers. I defeated his classy prostitute in front of him and it broke his spirit. Given the sheer size of this POI, there was a strong chance that this was a tier 5, but I was compelled to poke my head inside anyway, and I saw the grand prize. This place was absolutely stacked with bookshelves. I felt that surely I would max out every single crafting skill if I cleared this place. It was simply amazing. But treasure of this magnitude always comes with a price that is weighed proportionally to its value. I approached this place like a total chicken shit, but it was going well so far. This door effectively interfered with the calculus of this zombie's pathfinding. I had cleared about 5% of this room and I had already killed about 10 zombies. So I would need to approach with great caution. And while the library contained books just like you would expect, whoever made this POI evidently had a sense of humor. These bookshelves, specifically the ones I'm searching in this footage, actually possessed a different loot table than real bookshelves. It was a cruel trick. Some of them were real books, and the book piles were real piles of books. But it takes a special kind of sinner to put the hide of an animal inside a bookshelf. This POI was running a special offer by offering this bird to stab my brain. There was a great deal of library to explore, but I limited my search to the first room, where the easiest and friendliest zombies were located. The library definitely struck me as having an active population of mutated and radiated zombies. I would return later. Oh, and there's just a feral wandering the streets of the forest biome. This wasn't going to get old anytime soon. Punching mushrooms is the only way I know how to properly gather them. My experience with violence turned out to be a transferable skill in the construction industry. I inflicted damage to property for a few pieces of steel. For those with an eye for detail, you might notice my vitality bar is missing. When vitality is above 80%, the icon will hide itself. So if you see that something is missing, that means I was successfully manipulating a mechanic crucial to my survival. Nerd polling is frowned upon in this mod. So frowned upon that it is simply disabled. The way to vandalize public property is to carry nails and chop down trees. I don't think about how I can stick small iron nails into a metal pole. I just work here. I checked my stock of steel that I had acquired ethically and with integrity, and quite annoyingly, I was just one part short. Everything else was present. And I do count my double barrel as a shotgun part. I would be scrapping it. And even though I was still short. Apparently, you can craft shotgun parts at the low price of 7 individual steels. But the game has such a great sense of humor, you need a workstation called a lathe, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. At the time of filming, this was not available, and it is still not available at the timing of this voiceover. I would have to excruciatingly acquire an inventory of shotgun parts through conquest. This annoying zombie was being annoying. My shotgun situation was gnawing at my brain, so my agitated brain commanded my body to go out searching for shotgun parts. And literature fragments, of course. I was on a tight deadline because tonight was Horde Night. I extrapolated data from this cop car and determined that the world was truly in a degenerate state before the zombie apocalypse. Arming police officers with a pipe SMG was truly the low point for humanity. I added another scar to my face when this bird pecked me, the bastard. It was a small sample of what was to come. I'm sure I won't regret scrapping these wiring magazines later on in the playthrough, because if there was anything I've learned regarding the consequences of my actions, it was absolutely nothing. Somebody had spread a vile rumor that I was selling Pokemon cards at a dilapidated Mo Power store. The people began to pile up beneath my feet. Also, I was curious if the Mo zombie is related to the Mo Power franchise. This drug addict slapped my face when I refused to let him borrow my cell phone to call his homies. Also, this is a reminder that 45 ammo loot was bugged and was giving me about 4 times the normal amount. I was appalled at the lack of shotgun parts in this electronic-themed store, but I felt quite fortunate when I found this stun baton right as my unrepairable stun baton was about to break. The morning was quickly turning into the afternoon. My brain begged me to stop getting distracted, but I needed to be absolutely sure my steel club was working properly. I asked the soldier if he knew the location of a single piece of shotgun part. Sometimes you have to search in the unlikeliest places to get what you need, but the problem with unlikely places is that they are unlikely places for a reason. The sham chowder was a good find, though. I wasted precious durability on this extremely reinforced glass to break into this restaurant, and encountered a non-zero amount of friction. I was inadequately rewarded with rewards from the forest biome. I don't even know what kind of meat is in this meat stew, but I could not afford to question it. These backpacks are excellent sources of parts. Usually, it's the exact part you don't need, but you've got to take the bad with the good. One good thing is that I came in possession of complex laboratory equipment without a license. Beakers can be a real bastard to find, but I proudly crossed this off my very long list of things I needed, as well as this ergonomic grip. Very useful. I had an urge to read comic books. I went into a nerd rage after realizing the bookstores only contained the same 23 books I had read hundreds of times over already. Truly, this was the apocalypse. Some psychopath hid a pistol in a cardboard box, and this police officer was apparently living in the Stone Age. My knees and my back were begging for relief. I sprinted at maximum speed with all of my weight back to my base. I had now existed long enough to become an expert on clubbing my deceased neighbors in the face. I wrote 2 volumes on the subject, and then I chewed on them. The set was complete. Every power attack would now restore stamina on a killing blow. This would allow me to use those weird little mud zombies as stamina batteries anytime I engaged the big wandering hordes. The rest of my fragments would be reinvested into mining and forge-adjacent manuals. My next crafting target after the shotgun would be the advanced crucible. But happy playtime was over. I needed to address some serious concerns. I've never fully cleared this house because this house has a guaranteed feral zombie, but now I had the technology and the courage to fully face it. I realized my food shortage was due to this fat zombie raiding my refrigerator while I was out raiding. I've never wanted rocket launcher parts in my life. Please stop giving me these. It takes a truly evil person to put paper in a bookshelf. The feral damaged my property and approached me menacingly, but I had heard a second zombie, and sometimes this POI will spawn 2 ferals. I strategically and bravely changed the venue of our fight and injected shotgun pellets into his face. The threat had been addressed for now. The second zombie, which was indeed a feral, disintegrated my door by slightly punching it. I scored a lucky knockdown, but I had been too stupid to reload my shotgun. But I had won my game of baseball, and my home was officially cleared. This mod does a fantastic job at inspiring fear and demanding respect for the world. This fear and respect made it feel very good anytime I made any sort of progression whatsoever. I progressed when I looted this ammo pile and found my final shotgun part. It was time to start building, except these zombies were annoying me. Go away, you stupid zombies, go away. Speaking of stupid zombie, I needed to check what percentage of zombie my body currently was. I made a Z virus testing kit, and while I waited for it to craft, I ran out of my house like a hillbilly and tested my extremely loud firearm on a zombie's head. The thunders of Horde Night clapped throughout my brain. I ran into my spike trap for good luck, because that's the only reason I would run into a spike trap. I injected the entire testing kit into my arm and learned I was currently 16% zombie, which is actually very good. I wouldn't need to be taking antibiotics for quite a while. I spent the rest of the evening preparing for the long night ahead of me. felt optimistic for the day 14 horde. Not only did I have guns, I also had ammunition. I also had the second best melee weapon in the game. I'd made great strides since the previous horde, but I lost a portion of that optimism when I dumped half of a magazine into exactly one bird. This wouldn't be the last time I got scratched and pecked. Recently, a new mechanic called Gunsway was added into the mod, making it harder to aim a gun. The vanilla guns were bugged and didn't possess this handicap, so I maliciously abused this bug. The zombies were at the exact range for me to irritate them with my shotgun pellets. I played dodgeball with the rock thrower, and I soundly defeated him when he failed to dodge my bullets. If you can dodge a ball, you can dodge the termination of your life. Suddenly, the game decided that sending 50,000 vultures would be an appropriate challenge for me. The pistol is absolutely awful at killing vultures on insane difficulty. Thankfully, birds are stupid, and zombie birds are even stupider than I am. I was not permitted to stop for a single second. I needed to keep the birds at a distance. Any damage I took was damage that I would eat, because I couldn't stop to bandage myself. I pretended the birds were just a manifestation of all my insecurities, and I shot at them. This solved my bird problem, but not my insecurities. I now had a green spider problem. Spiders can scale walls, and the green spiders can jump incredibly high distances. I paid the spider a few shotgun shells to leave me alone. Also, look at this horde down here. I'd thought about building a cobblestone fighting position, but I would have just died. The rest of the night was just me taking advantage of my elevated fighting position against a horde of zombies too stupid to focus on breaking all of my support blocks. This would be the final horde night where I basically got a free pass. The next time I would commit to building a fighting position, because sooner or later, feral bikers and heavy zombies would join and flatten any building I stood on top of. The night concluded, and I manipulated zombie pathing to path away from the loot bags. These zombies volunteered to increase my skill in shotguns. Nothing of note was found in the loot bags, but I did receive a scope mod. Its utility would surprise me in the coming days. There was a direwolf just standing there. I assumed he spawned during horde night. I had absolutely no method of fighting a direwolf, so I left him to despawn. The purpose of horde night is to remove ammunition and to clear backspace, and I was back at the desert. The horde had failed to bring me down. I had punched them for being too incompetent to build their own ladder to try and get to me. But happy playtime needed to draw to a close. I needed to go to the biome of never-ending Christmas to mine some anthracite. Anthracite is nature's answer to the question, what if coal was better? Anthracite is the highest burning fuel in this mod, and will allow me to burn iron faster. Coal is not only a weaker fuel, but burning coal is an enormous waste. Coal must be burned with iron to create steel, and we're going to need a lot of steel for the endgame. This wolf mistook me for a weak pizza delivery boy. His bones would make the perfect glue. Well, he's dead. These gas pumps begged me to wrench them down, and how could I resist? The game stage boost in the Siberia biome is horrifyingly high. I would put it about the same as the wasteland in the base game. There are direwolves that just wander the area during the day. Being out here made me slightly less than relaxed, but there's also a lot of deer and wildlife. If I could just brave the snow biome for more than 5 minutes, I would never starve again. I began digging out another rock of anthracite because I was too scared to dig myself into a hole, because it's not just direwolves that roam out here. Oh no, 264 anthracites had satisfied me. This would give me over 2 hours of fuel. And the game just gives me another shotgun part. Wonderful. This barn of horrors gave me horrible vibes. But if I were able to overcome the extremely hostile obstacles, I could perhaps find something in here that could help me overcome future obstacles. And no, I wasn't sneaking because I was absolutely terrified of what I was going to find. It's not like I'd find a radiated zombie or anything. But I did get in a life or death altercation with Arlene, but if I can be honest, I was a little surprised how low level the zombies were. However, I wasn't surprised at all when I came across a feral Big Mama. My shotgun protected me by unprotecting Big Mama. This is easily the smallest tier 2 POI because there's only like 4 zombies in here, but the loot reminded me that low risk equaled low reward. Arlene was extremely generous and gave me 2 entire issues of Forging Heads. and some steel. So far, this had been a good steel run. And don't ever search these cops' cars, they're never worth it. That's why the sheriff is overrated. I decided that I did not like being in the Christmas biome, so I returned home. And I employed my usual methods of not dying to death in a survival based world. I slammed edible, non toxic food down my face, and I feel that I should explain myself. It is day 15, and this is the first time I have eaten grilled corn, an incredibly easy food to make. The early foods drain your hydration. My body persuaded my mouth to not eat grilled foods to avoid issues with hydration. But now I have established myself in the apocalypse. I had a good stock of hydrating material to a point where I could spend some of it towards not being malnourished. Later that night, I had a perfectly healthy and well balanced idea. I would slam my axe into my roof and establish myself a sniper's nest. It took a quantity of arrows to realize intoxication does nothing to help my aim. Clearly, I was too intoxicated, so I began to rest up for the new day. My brain compelled me to return to the desert. I felt I was now armed enough to take on exactly one feral zombie. The desert provided the best balance of risk versus reward. The zombies employed scare tactics. Steve showed his tactical prowess by being slightly out of range. But practice makes perfect, and I began practicing my cheese tactics by being elevated. It was at this point that the vanilla guns were fixed to actually give gun experience in their respective skill. The shotgun proved to be an effective answer to the feral question. I could do a lot with just a little with a well-placed headshot. But my forgetful memory was reminded that gunshots are loud and will bring a great deal of attention to my actions. Even for a tier 3 with significantly enhanced game stage, this wasn't bad at all. This zebra cake was very tempting, but there's definitely something odd about it. A pastry should definitely not provide 80 food. Zebra cakes are definitely not this nutritious normally. Very strange. I corrected Steve's feral behavior by giving him therapy, and I was finally starting to receive decent quantities of gunpowder to craft gun-related material with. Finding this baseball bat indicated that I was in fact eligible to receive iron-quality weapons and tools, a sign of good health and fortune. I devalued my pickaxe on this lockbox because I did not have lockpicks, but I did increase its value with the smash and grab perk, increasing damage done to lockboxes. Nothing of note was found, but again, the iron knuckles indicated that I was eligible to receive more useful loot in the future. I robbed this family of their life savings, and their life savings only contained a single mod. My day was full of raiding, but I was too stupid to record the rest of my adventures. I did find a compound bow, which was an exceptional find, but going forward, exceptional finds were going to become normalized. But I decided it was time for me to grow up. I needed to fill all of my bag spaces with copper ore. The crawler class permits me to make a full distillery, which completely invalidates the issue of dying of thirst. My previous experience with mining quickly taught me to shovel a nice exit ramp for myself, because getting stuck in a hole can become a small issue. The distillery demands 100 copper ingots to be crafted, but night was approaching fast and my sorcery would only make me less than half of what was needed. But I was on my way to another advancement in technology that would trivialize the concept of survival. But digging myself into a deep hole did provide me access to limestone. Risking my life would yield me several healthy blocks of limestone, an extremely useful resource for brick and concrete related crafting. I was fast approaching the mid-game, and I celebrated by partying with these two zombies. And my night of success concluded with a federal crime spree against a very large quantity of mailbox that can be found in this literal megacity. I awoke from a horrible nightmare. I dreamt that I walked among the zombies. I shoved 2 entire jars of syrup into my face, jars included. But my true nightmare was alcohol withdrawals, but that too was quickly solved. I stuck my bare hands into the forge and changed the molten copper into ingots. I committed armed robbery against a beehive and stole their honey. And even with a steel club, these bikers are obnoxiously hard to put down. I increased my carbon footprint by ripping flowers out of the ground for mineral water. The night was relaxing and peaceful. I was entering a phase in my gameplay where I would need to focus more on burdening the planet. I was becoming a developing nation, and running a country demands a lot of gathering resources. Suddenly, I was blinded by my greed and ambition. The forest became extremely hostile to my eyesight, and so I returned to the desert. I'm not sure why a weapons bag would be present in a medical facility, but I suppose weapons could be seen as medication in the apocalypse. The tables had turned on this police officer. Now he was the one that was locked up. I received my prescription medicine, which was an M1911. My gum problem was being treated very effectively, but my depression began flaring up when I encountered another trader compound that did not feature a Trader Bob. I honored his memory by siphoning beer from these barrels. Someday I would craft these beers into overpowered in-game consumables. There sure seems to be a staggering amount of civilization in a biome with absolutely no water sources. This was a new city, and a new city means employment opportunities. New employment opportunities means I get to do the Crackapunk Mo Power Shuffle because I know what I'm about. I begged the video game to please not spawn any feral bikers because my game stage was absolutely at the point where I could encounter such horrors. And I don't know who put a gun vending machine in a bookstore, but that's something to think about. These safes are excellent sources of wristwatch and compasses, but apparently I am a liar, and these goddamn dogs always get a hit on me before I can kill them, I swear. But having your face chewed off is a small price to pay for a rifle. I am acutely aware of my shortcomings, but how could I be that slow in reloading a rifle? Well, as it turns out, my reload speed was glacial due to my absolute incompetence. My skill in rifle was firmly in the zeros, but I could increase my reload speed if I decreased the number of zombies using a rifle. My opinion on the gun sway mechanic continued to develop as I struggled with the concept of a headshot. Gun sway is greatly reduced when you are crouching, but I had lacked the brain power to apply this information. Firing at the hip would serve well enough. Afterlife is a long journey where life is hard and things only gradually improve. The mod is definitely built around the idea of investing your time. But since the mod uses an action-based progression system, nothing is ever truly a waste of time. For example, mining without Miner 69er in the base game feels like squatting in a field of cactus. That same feeling can also be felt at the beginning stages of this mod, but your stats are also increasing. Your stats increases your effectiveness at doing other things. Even when things like mining can feel like a slog, you're rewarded for your actions, and future actions become significantly easier. My actions killed this feral mutated zombie, and this brand new rifle would make my future actions significantly easier. Fantastic. I had greatly increased my arsenal. I finally had some choices, and the reload speed wasn't completely awful. And maybe someday I will figure out what to do with this robotic turret. The world reserve for fuel became shortened when I bashed this wrench into these gas pumps. I will never not wrench down gas pumps. Nothing beats the amazing feeling I get when I kill a biker in 2 headshots on insane difficulty. But the world is full of surprises, and I was surprised at the amount of friction I received at this daycare. Apparently daycares are secret housing centers for feral zombies. Getting hit in the desert offers the opportunity of getting hit even more when the zombie vultures smell your blood. Aiming without crosshairs is a skill in itself and not one that I will ever master. And I vowed to make my situation as bad as possible by exclusively using the loudest possible firearm to solve my zombie infestation, and now the game was just throwing guns at me. But I had a new problem. Soon, my iron pickaxe would be permanently broken. I scrambled to try and find a replacement. I thought perhaps I had outsmarted the game's progression system through stupid brute luck when I looted this pickaxe, but my manipulation of the game's looting system was beginning to haunt me. If I didn't find a new axe, I would be forced to use a scrap pickaxe, which simply wasn't acceptable. I also didn't want to invest several fragments into raising my tool skill high enough to be crafting iron pickaxes. And while on the subject of manipulating the loot system, this mod makes this POI, this gun range, enormously useful. However, I was already heavy, but I did mark the POI and would be making a return very soon. My brain desired to loot this gas station for its tools, but it apparently contained magical teleporting bikers that slapped sense into me. No tools were found, but now I was pulling steel quality weapons, an extremely healthy sign. But I was inflicting long lasting damage to my spine. It was finally time to head home, and it was time to wind down. I used telekinesis to create a wooden box. This would be my storage box of all the things I would immediately forget about after looting them. The gun sway mechanic makes this scope completely unusable. I'm not even moving my mouse. But that's a problem for another time. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I appreciate you all. See you next time.